Next up, we have Nicole Mattingly talking about overexcitability magnification and family dynamics, parenting with intensities on all sides.
Excellent. And I also don't mind if you stand up. In fact, I know you guys had your lunch and then you had the carbs and sugar hit you and then Karen got you when you're whatever. So I'm exactly in the slump. So if you feel like shoving a piece of candy in your mouth, that would help all of us. I promise I am more palatable if you're on a sugar high. So I encourage you, you're welcome to stick the candy in your mouth. If you want to stand up, run around, I don't care. I will take it. So yeah, okay. Setting the stage. All right, so for the past few years, I have presented at dozens of state and national conferences about gifted, and I'm always conflicted as to how to introduce myself, because it's really about, you have to, by the way, I use notes for your protection. If I'm not using notes, we go so far aside, so please excuse. Because you always want to introduce yourself in a way that presents yourself in a way that you are actually an authority, but of course you have a right to be talking here, right? So it's really hard to know how to present myself to this group, but you're the Dabrowski Congress, so you're gonna get the Gestalt version because you guys can handle that, right? So yeah, anyway, so you're also gonna hear a lot of terminology that I use that is parallel to theory of positive disintegration, but, and I'll explain terminology as we go along, but you know what? You guys will totally get it. I don't have to worry about whether or not you're going to get me because we're right here. Nice. All right. So I was one of those really obnoxious, profoundly gifted overachievers back in the day. I went to college at 16, had 3 degrees by 21. My first one was molecular cellular developmental biology, so genetics, with a minor in biochemistry, and then one in literature, and then a master's in literature. I had a minor in religious studies in there somewhere, and I was cum laude, Dean's List, found a gene, whatever. And so those types of things. And but that's not actually what brought me on this journey. What brought me on this journey was becoming a mom to extreme outliers and all the intensities. And so that is my journey into this world. It was about trying to be a better mom, honestly. So I started out with the Sang model parent groups, attending them, trying to find resources, ways that I could help my kids. And then that transformed into attending state and national gifted conferences, where 2011, my first state conference, Linda Silverman gave a speech. So did Patty. And Patty, I told Patty earlier today, when she's listening to this, she should hear her words echoed through so many of my slides, because it's really, well, it's wonderful and it's awful when you have your guru in the room with you and you're talking about your parenting abilities, when I'm I totally took all your advice for parenting abilities. So no pressure at all. No, anyway. So I am credentialed in a lot of ways. Oh, yeah, I'm also a student. I am exactly 1 class away and a dissertation, just a dissertation, from getting my doctorate in educational psychology at UNC. And my focus is on gifted, especially outlier populations. I especially love the PGs and the 2Es because, center of my world, right? As most people in the room. I love seeing all the nodding. Oh my gosh. For you people online, you're totally missing the nods. It's fantastic. So, so for this room, I need to acknowledge that I live a life with extreme intensities. And I use intensities because I don't like the word overexcitability, because I get told I am too much. So much. The concept that over is a judgment. So when I say intensities instead of overexcitability, it's not because I'm rejecting Dabrowski. It's because I'm trying to take a positive bend on these wonderful intensities and not putting a judgment over word on it. So please excuse me if I'm using a different word. It's not that I'm not talking about the same thing. I am talking about the same thing. But oh my gosh, my intro page is taking way too long. We're never going to get through this. I'm going to shut up about me. All right. But yes, I was one of those poor kids. Oh, my poor parents. I was one of those kids with super intellectual intensities. I didn't sleep more than 4 hours a night, forever. So my poor parents, they let me read very early. So I have lived an entire second life while everyone else is sleeping, reading. So if you wonder why all the subjects, because I'm awake. So that's what we're doing. Oh, sorry. All right, so want to talk about positive and negatives. observational, oh man, when you have all the intensities, you have these observational skills that make you able to perceive the world fundamentally differently. I mean, we all know the Columbus group, but that also makes you incredibly sensitive to the injustices of the world, right? And so you're uniquely qualified to recognize how very unfair life is. And I went through that without someone to talk to me about giftedness, or to talk to me about intensities, or to talk to me about how you're developing. Those were not things that are part of the narrative. But you know what? You already know all of this. I came to the theory of positive disintegration 3-4 years ago. I mean, started with the OEs 10 years ago, but didn't really relate it back to theory of positive disintegration until 3-4 years ago. So I am not a TPD scholar. So I am totally an interloper here and an imposter. So you have found me out. All right. So as a presenter, I am focusing on lived experiences. I am not trying to compete with the expertise in this room. That is not my place. So this is a lived experiences talk. Don't worry, it's only 30 minutes. So you'll get out of it soon. All right, so this is my husband of 20 years. This is Ian. He is absolutely fantastic. I'm leaning into my mom identity for this, but I have to say part of that identity is being with Ian. He is like the perfect IQ. He's like at that 135, that ideal, where he's bright enough, where he can totally get you. But when he walks in a room, people are not like, that's an outlier. Like, people do not see him and say, outlier, outlier. So he is absolutely perfect for me. And like Melissa was talking yesterday about, yeah, marry someone. I was like, that right there, marry someone who does not have global OEs, because it makes life so much easier. Also, yeah, he has almost no intensities. He is very much a spreadsheet guy. And yeah, I was gonna say that, especially like Eric, your point of people who can get into the system and adapt and then change it very slowly from within. Oh my gosh, he is so good at that. He is so appropriate. Would you spend any time with me? The people in the room are laughing because they spent time with me last night. So you know. So ideal. And he's also been a fantastic parent to my extreme outlier children. Now I can also tell you that Ian will not do self-work. Like, okay, this is crossing a boundary. I shouldn't talk about other people's, but Patty, I have handed him the book when he's not doing well. I'm like, bad neck. It's because you're not just your mind, Ian. You are in fact more than your mind. He won't do that work on him. But if I'm talking about the kids, relentlessly, he will work to help support them, which could not ask for more in a partner, right? All right, don't worry, he's not gonna watch this video. He won't know I tell this story. It's totally fine. He's busy, whatever. All right, so this is Liam, he's my 14-year-old. A number of people in the room know him because he went to UNASA, both of my boys. So a lot of people know my kids. Early precocity. Oh my gosh, I absolutely love this kid, and he has so many intensities. Literally every single one, which, so this was my first child. So learning to have a kid who literally went into existential angst at age 2 because he heard that there was a tsunami in Japan and he wanted to know how many children died, and didn't sleep for 3 days because were there kids in Japan? I mean, a 2-year-old, like, and so when you have a deep diver, when you have one of those kids, man, I needed a new toolbox, right? Because I had not had tools for myself, and so I need to develop tools for him because he's going to be a deep diver. And he also had that again at age 5 when he heard that here at the Denver Zoo that a keeper of one of the panthers, which we went to the zoo all the time, and one of the panthers went in to clean, both animal and human ended up dead. And so after that, doesn't want to go to any zoos because now by extension, all zoos and all, you know, so if you have one of these kids, I mean, it is a gift to have them in your life, but it is also relentless, right? I mean, we love these kids. No, anyway, I went off the notes. That's a problem. Tell me, point at the notes to get back to it. Okay, but man, this kid, oh, he has, you know what? You don't need to hear a ton more about it, Liam, but I will say that the greatest gift we ever gave Liam was teaching him an emotional vocabulary. You know, giving him the words to be able to express those things, to be able to talk about his sensitivities, to be able to be like, I don't like being at the arcade place where people are doing a birthday party because it's overwhelming to me and I absolutely hate that. Well, that's a really valuable tool for a 5-year-old to be able to say, I'm not going to that party because it's just going to be miserable. I mean, giving them the ability to speak to their sensitivities. It is such an empowering thing, right? And that is extended out. That was what I why I intended to give it to him. Then we didn't diagnose him until he was 13. The kid is autistic. The kid is literally on the autism spectrum. And thank God we gave him a vocabulary, because he has these amazing interpersonal skills that he gained because we gave him an emotional vocabulary at every possible instance, if that makes sense. All right, sorry. That was me seeking validation last, sorry. All right, so Toby, which I love that picture. I don't know if you noticed, the first picture of Ian and I was one that it was literally 3 weeks ago. And then I was like, Toby, take a picture of us. He's like, yeah, I'll take a picture of you too. Yeah, Toby, center of the world, Toby. Now he may actually be the smartest person in our family. Don't tell him that, please. Good God. But he was incredibly precocious yeah, that picture of him, that's a 10-month-old. I know most kids start walking at 12 months. This is 10 months. And he had started responding with baby sign at about 3 months. And from the time he could start signing, airplane, 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 the constant. And like he was obsessed with airplanes. This was at the NASA rocket park. This is him running from rocket to rocket. Like intensity. By the way, that baby never smiled. That baby, like, now, anyway, which is hilarious because you can see him in the bottom corner. This was his first, he's a dancer. He's my dancer. He has to be doing exercise. If he doesn't exercise 3-4 hours a day, he doesn't sleep that night. Dan knows, anyone at UNASA knows, you take him out of the ballet studio, he assigns himself manual labor for many hours a day, right? Yeah, he has to move. And so psychomotor is definitely a thing. But so this bottom one, actually, because he does ballet 20, 30 hours a week. And yeah, he's the cover of the advertisements for the company. Anyway, oh my gosh, I'm gonna run out of time if I just talk. Oh God bless it, 12 minutes in, I only have 25. Okay, we're moving on. All right, so, but for those of you who have been watching this and you're like, oh my God, you're a proud mom, go write a blog, seriously. Don't waste our time at the Dabrowski conference, sorry. The reason that I'm giving you this details is because being a mom is literally the hardest thing I've ever done. I mean, all the degrees, all of the psychosocial issues that I've had to deal with, growing up with a family of genius narcissists. Holy crap, the hardest thing I've ever done is parenting these kids, okay? And being mindful of the parenting decisions that I make to enable their development, to enable their personal journeys, because it's not about my journey, it's about their journey, right? And by the way, thank you, Patty. It is not about inculcating them with my values, it's about them being their own people. And I heard you. And so anyway, so we made so many mistakes, but these are just brief oversimplification takeaways, how I'm framing the lecture today, which you're like, yeah, we're gonna go through all of them. We'll just go. Anyway, all right. So parenting priorities. This is something that I think is super important to talk about. And oh, I thought those were flying. Whatever. You guys get to see the plans are like. Okay. So what do I most want for my children in order to make them have happier lives? Do I need them to maximize their external accolades and to get as much external approbation? Or do I need them to have the skills to move through life in a way that they find fulfilling, right? So every time that we're faced with a question, that's what we're facing. So the anecdotes I wanted to share with you were like, my sister and I were invited to go to the Caroli Ranch in Texas in gymnastics. We were both competitive gymnasts. We were offered a spot. The Carolis ran the Olympic team for decades, and we could have gone and done that. Thank God my parents did not say yes. Actually, we had lots of family discussions. Do you want gymnastics to be your thing? Do you want that to be your only thing in your life? That was a serious discussion, right? I'm so glad we didn't. But anyway, we had to have that same discussion with Liam. When Liam was 9, he was ranked the #6 climber in the United States. And he has climbed against and competed against people who just won in the Olympics. He's actually beat a couple. But Liam didn't want to be at the climbing gym 6 days a week. Liam didn't want his whole identity to be climbing. And so we had to say, it's really okay to be recreational. It's really okay. And help him reframe that journey, right? That was a hard decision to make, right? And then on the other side, we have Toby, who literally could radically accelerate in any subject. I mean, we could put that kid on a college campus tomorrow, he'd be perfectly fine. I mean, not exaggerating, not a humble brag. People would talk to him. It's, you know, and he chooses, he's only accelerated 1 year in school. He chooses to dance. He puts so much energy and effort into that growth in the studio. So choosing to make these, making these parenting choices based upon what actually is going to benefit the child the most, that has to be the objective, right? So, all right. Which I realized as I was reading, as I've been listening to the amazing speakers here. By the way, I am blown away. All of you people are fantastic, and this has been a really great conference. Thank you. I realized that you actually don't need my advice about any of this. But the whole concept is, are we supporting their journey? That's the whole concept. Yeah, and you could also see that as the third factor or whatever. Are you giggling? My voice. All right, so the other thing we need to have a lot of cognizance of the effect of the OEs on those dyads. Dyads are those interpersonal, everyone knows dyads? Ever heard of the dyads? The interpersonal relationships that you're having, okay? And if you have multiple people with intensities, oh my gosh, boy, can you spin each other up. Like, it literally, to me, it's not just synergistic, it's almost like when you take drugs, and if you mix drugs, it becomes like exponentially synergistic. That's what it is to have the OEs and family members, right? Oh, so many nods, just so you know, people not in the room. Universal nodding going on. All right, so one of the things you can do is capitalize on that for spinning up, right? And my kids, we spin up to song, we spin up to dance, we spin up to rhyming, we play all the damn time. We are always joking, we are always mocking ourselves, we are always mocking each other. This day, we were walking into a taco place, and this is what they were doing on their way from the car to the taco place for no reason whatsoever. And so it's wonderful when you use that to spin up. Now, and I think capitalizing on joy-inducing tendencies by spinning each other up in positive ways, that's absolutely fantastic. And oh, okay, I have to tell you. So the first day of school for Liam, when he went to, we put him in a senior high school, which is juniors and seniors, only 11th and 12th graders in Texas, 3,500 17, 18-year-olds, right? Liam was a 13-year-old prepubescent tiny kid. Okay, first day of school, and he's in the lunch line, and he's doing his dance, which is there's bending back, there's a hip thrust, and there's an arm roll. Right? This is in the lunch line, the 13-year-old at the senior high school, and a kid next to him is like, dude, stop it. And Liam says, does my joy make you sad? You have to love that joy. Anyway, sorry, that was one analogy I could not skip. However, when you have people that can spin each other up, this also works in the negative, right? When tensions are high, when people are at odds, oh my goodness gracious. And when I talk about, like, especially those of us that have the catastrophic thinking that can go to worst case scenario, you imagine the absolute worst possible intention of the person you're talking to. Like when Toby attributes intentions to me, like I'm trying to ruin his life. Like literally, I'm doing what I can to destroy his dreams and joy with so many tears. Yeah, he sincerely believes it, right? Sincerely, right? And when you magnify those out and you don't learn to address them or at least recognize them, it has catastrophic effects. I mean, literally, family trait, which don't worry, my family of narcissists, they're not gonna watch this, so it doesn't matter. I can totally say whatever I want. So my mom is one of 4 children, and I'm one of 10 grandchildren in my generation. 3 of us have been disowned by our parents. Like, think about those odds, right? That there's literally, now, it's the other 3 in my mom's generation, there's 4 of them. The other 3 have each disowned one of their children. Do not have contact with them, do not have contact with their grandchildren. Now, my mom flirted with disowning me for a little while, but she got over it, it's fine. But when you think about how these intensities can just iceberg clashing, man, right? So you've got to learn to acknowledge these things early and figure out ways around them. So coping mechanisms, huge one, which you guys don't actually need my advice. I have no idea why I decided you guys wanted to hear about this, because you don't need coping mechanisms, but I'm going to tell you what we did anyway, just because I'm using myself. Using emotional vocabulary, recognizing the stressors, being able to put a name to a feeling is phenomenally empowering. My instinct has always been, like, since a small child, I'm not going to start fights, but damn it, I'll finish it. Like, right? Is that in any way constructive in a relationship? No, it's not. No, it's not. And I'm not exaggerating. I've broken 2 people's noses in fights, like, to that extent. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Like, the sort of physical violence, I lost the room. They all went. Everyone. I lost the room. Oh, bless my heart. Thank you, Patty. So I'm telling you that it has taken years and years of deep reflexivity. How is this useful? How is this helpful? What am I hoping to accomplish here? Okay. This is a journey I am on, and I'm helping my children through, which is wonderful. But one real implication that we have to use my family. Anybody is allowed to call timeout at any point on any argument ever, which is so hard when you are right and you are drilling in the point and they're like, timeout, and you can't follow them to the next room. God damn it. Best rule we ever made. Anybody can call timeout at any time. And you can delay the conversation for up to 48 hours. You get to call the comeback time. Oh, that's hard to do. Neither of my children had their nose broken. So anyway, wow, I'm sorry. The joke flopped the first time. I should not have gone on with that. That was a poor choice. All right. Another thing to say is it has not been effective for me to say, you are being too sensitive. Has that ever worked? Has anyone ever seen that work? Okay. All right. So these are coping mechanisms we're not going to do. All right. Yeah, this is not, but this is also a really good one. Deciding whether or not a topic is worth engaging in. and giving each other permission to say, you know what? I don't need to engage on this. This is not important enough for me to argue with you. And honestly, it's mostly when Toby says, no, it's this. And I'm like, actually, I have a degree in this and I'm pretty sure it's this. No, it's that. You know what? This is not worth engaging in. You have the Google box, have fun, bye-bye. So being able to do that, and it gives them the ability to do that too, which is kind of fantastic. We also have, but I will say that giving them that emotional vocabulary, it is fantastic. There are also some downsides to it. And like, I'm afraid to tell this story because Patty said 10 years ago, it's not your children's job to regulate your emotions. It's not your children's job to take care of you, right? And I have given them this amazing emotional vocabulary, and I encourage and I demonstrate, I'm conflicted about this, but this is what I can control, and here's how I'm going to move forward. I'm demonstrating how I'm going to move through my whatever. So I pick him up one day after he's been all day at school and then 4 hours at dance, and he gets in the car and he's 10 years old, 11 years old, and I start telling him about this complicated extended family issue with my aunt and my mom, and he goes, Mommy, I can't own your emotions on this right now. Like, I see that you're really upset, but I need downtime. So getting called out by your 10-year-old. But so double-edged sword, right? Isn't it wonderful that he can call me out on that? I mean, that's fantastic. And also, no, I still tried to vent on my 10-year-old. So absolutely, utter failure as well. But it's also fantastic. Like 3 months later, it was his first day of middle school. He came home. How's your first day of middle school? First thing out of his word, out of his mouth. Oh my God, Mom. The PE coach is the definition of toxic masculinity. Like, you have got to love kids that have a vocabulary, right? I mean, you enable this, and that kid is not worried about whether or not that teacher likes him. That kid is also not worried or not about the other 7th graders teasing about wearing rainbows and unicorn and doing dance 30 hours a week. It is really hard to bully Toby. He's like, yep, own it, bring it. I mean, it's really hard to bully that kid, all right? So pluses and minuses. But another way that we also cope with this is like, we do an I was wrong dance. Like, okay, I'll tease it. The I was wrong dance, well, that is a way to release tension. Okay, we'll get to that later. All right, so we have to basically just recognize the roles that the intensities play. Give yourselves time out. Recognize each other's strengths and weaknesses. Know when you're setting each other off. And also, oh yeah, acknowledge that there are external things in the world. If one of them is hungry, there will be a fight, right? And sometimes, and literally the one who had to learn this the first, started with my husband. I'm like, no, we can talk after you have a granola bar. We can have this conversation. I'm calling timeout until you eat, and then we can do this. And so really valid. Or if they're overwhelmed with sensations, or if they're too hot, or if the tag in their shirt is sticking them, you're not going to do anything productive. So anyway, moving on. All right. Okay. So honesty, which is basically, if you're talking about TPD, you're talking about authenticity. But I think it's important to frame honesty and adopt honesty as the just bedrock value when you're going through. And that also includes the self-reflexivity, being able to look at yourself and say like, maybe finishing fights doesn't work. Being able to look at yourself, honestly, super important for your own journey, as also to help facilitate others' journey. And I have to say, like, I absolutely love, Chris, I absolutely love the way that you make yourself vulnerable and share on your podcast, and putting honesty and authenticity at the bedrock of working through, struggles. Because if you can't see yourself honestly, you cannot be aware of addictions. I mean, my family is completely littered with addictions to food, alcohol, exercise, pills, being mean to small children. Okay. Maybe that's just my perception. Anyway, but if you can't be honest with yourself and really see how the choices you're making are reflecting yourself, your life, the people around you, there is no chance you're ever going to change them, right? I mean, and you have no reason to change them. If the way you perceive the world is so skewed that you can't see the effect you have on yourself and the world, there is no progress, right? So honesty is the bedrock, absolutely. Oh, but I have a side note, which I think is important to note, because I have an ego and I tend to have a competitive side. I mean, I can't imagine you would ever think that, but a little bit of a competitive side. And I will say that honesty is not an excuse for being judgmental of others. Blatantly judging another's journey does not facilitate your journey. Actually, enacting kindness, altruism, benevolence towards others, even in your thoughts, is a characteristic of higher level TPD. Honesty does not equate to dismissiveness or righteousness. These are anti-TPD traits. Thank you. So, which, you always have to say that when you're in a room full of geniuses. Like, seriously, we got to check ourselves, man. Like, so, moving on to the value of, oh man, how did that slide get? It's in the wrong place, whatever. Okay, moving on to humor. Just talking about how invaluable humor can be. And so one of the things I teased earlier was the I was wrong dance. Okay, so when you have knockdown, drag out, like I have a little bit of this obstinance, maybe arrogance, I don't know. People in the room look shocked. They have no idea what I'm talking about. And if one of us is being obstinate and someone else I am not the only one in my family that has these wonderful traits. So when Toby and I are getting into a knockdown, drag out fight, okay, not literally knocking down, I don't beat my children. But if we're having a fight about whether an octopus is a cephalopod, or he says mollusk, and this turns into, right, no, I'm right, okay. Someone says, ooh, I smell a dance coming on. Because in our family, if you insist that you are right and you are in fact wrong, you get to do the I was wrong dance. And the I was wrong dance must be done publicly, which means you might have to do it the next day at the Target when someone's like, ooh, dance, time. And it must be done. Now, what this does is a few things. One, it helps diffuse tension in the moment. And two, it makes you a little bit more likely to think about it when someone's like, wait, are you being insistent about this? Like, are you sure, cephalopod? Because I smell a dance, And because the I was wrong dance is meant to bring you down a notch, it must be public, it must be big. It is a song as well. I am going to share with you my I was wrong dance. Each of us has our own dance. And they might change. I mean, they evolve over time, right? One time, my husband, we were in a place with adults that was business related to him. And I was like, ooh, dance. He did an eyebrow I was wrong dance. It was impressive. It was, I was wrong. I can't do one eyebrow. He did an eyebrow I was wrong dance because it was appropriate at that time and space. So my I was wrong dance. Okay. I was wrong. 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 Now, my children have seen the I was wrong dance from me 7 times in 10 years. So I am very rarely wrong, but when I am, it's very public. Anyway, so they absolutely love this. But I will say that in addition to becoming, being a little bit less insistent, being a little bit less a little bit less attacking one another, it definitely helps with that, right? And also, none of us have escaped unscathed in the dance. Okay, I do it by far the least of the family. Not that I'm competitive, but all of us at some point have to do the dance, right? So, and for those of you who were worried about this, for those of you who have been worried, in case you were wondering, mollusca cephalopoda. In fact, we decided we were both right and both wrong. And because we were so insistent, we both had to do the dance. Because kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species, both right, both wrong. Okay, so this is actually the close, my portion of the conference. And you will notice that I am doing a terrible job of relating humor back to TPDs. But guess what? That's because I'm just a mom. I am not a scholar. So
And in parenting, especially, parenting two children, that's the biggest struggle that I have.
yes.
So your expertise is absolutely the #1 in the entire room at this moment in time.
Oh my goodness. Oh, thank you. For the people who are at home, Eric said he likes my hair. And, we're good to go. Oh, there's another question.
One more.
All right, okay.
Oh, no, it just says you were muted, but I didn't think so.
Oh,
Okay,
thank
thank
you.
you to Nicole.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Yay.